The U.S. First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Basically, that means we have freedom of speech in the U.S. So, do you think that the First Amendment as freedom of speech could be one way that TikTok isn't banned? I know we talked about the Texas thing, Project Texas, but do you think this could also be used as their argument, even though they're Chinese?
It's a good question. I mean, this could take us down a big rabbit hole. I don't know if you got time.
I had nothing but time.
Okay, so like, what are laws and what is freedom of speech? And I know it sounds like, oh, we have to get into definitions, but
no, we do.
Really, it matters. What the hell are we talking about here? What are laws?
They're rules that the government makes for us to follow.
Right. And is the Constitution laws or a document to guide all the laws and rules that we make? Like that thing you just wrote.
They're amendments. It's a Constitution. It's the foundation of what America was built on, but they're not a law.
Is an amendment
or our rights
stronger?
There are rights as Americans.
Okay, are rights stronger than laws?
That's a great question.
Whatever. It doesn't really matter. The point is, laws themselves restrict freedoms, no?
Yeah, they do.
Even that right or amendment or law or whatever it's called, I don't know, that piece you read directly specifies what people can and can't do. So if people are free, they should be able to can and can't do whatever they want. But instead, they can and can't do what that blurb specifies.
Right.
What if I want to be hateful? Like, that's my freedom. Should that not be my freedom to be hateful?
Technically, you can stand on a corner, well, not here because we're in Canada, but in the US, you're allowed to stand on a corner and say negative things about your government.
Oh, so there's never been any lawsuits or media or anything about hate speech?
Oh no, there is.
Oh, so this freedom of speech thing needs a big bracket.
No.
Bracket, not hate speech.
No, but that freedom of speech, that hate speech, usually, not always, but usually the person is protected under this amendment.
But it's not. They're not. I'm not allowed to have hate speech. There's tons of cases of it. I could go look them up. I'm not American, but I know damn well there's tons of hate speech cases where you can't say that stuff.
Well, I know that in the U.S., the KKK can rally. They go downtown and they have their KKK rally with their friggin' hoods and talk hate and say they hate, and they do it all the time. So
I can slander or libel anybody then?
No.
Why not? Isn't that freedom of my speech?
Well, but that's on the other side of it.
But the Constitution, freedom of speech, right there, that's my right. I can't just slander or libel somebody?
No. Yeah, fair play.
I'm saying, what are laws and what is freedom of speech? Laws sound to me like things made to restrict people's freedoms.
They are.
So I'm not free to go running around doing whatever I want. This is why we have a civilized society, because people are not free to do whatever they want.
This whole thing, what you're saying, is exactly why my ex-husband always says the land of the free is a joke, because you're not free.
Well,
America, people think they're free, but they're actually not.
Either way, I'm not getting political. This is a philosophical thing.
Mm.
I'm just asking, like, what are we talking about here? So how do you have a law about freedom of speech if laws by themselves are here to restrict freedoms? That's why they exist. Otherwise, you would have anarchy and chaos or whatever. People would be doing whatever they want all the time because there is no laws and there is no enforcement and there is no punishment and whatever, right?
Right.
Like, it sounds great. Like, let's have that utopia where everyone just does whatever they want. People try it all the time. Eventually, you just need laws.
Yeah, they end up putting in laws for a reason.
Yeah, and those laws are to restrict people. Laws restrict the total freedom that we are all sort of born with. Like,
yes,
animals are free to do whatever they want.
Right. Fair play.
Animals have real freedom.
They do.
They don't care about laws. Make as many laws as you want. They will do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Humans are animals too, but we get laws all the time. And even when we try to have a society without laws, it ends up creating laws.
Yes.
So this blurb you're reading is all celebrating freedom of speech, but it itself is a law restricting people's behavior, telling them how they can operate.
Yeah, it's our,
and it's part of a document that has a bunch of other restrictions of what they can and can't do.
It's the First Amendment. It's the very first thing when they came over, when the Pilgrims or Puritans came over to the U.S., to America, they came over because they were restricted from their religion. That also includes freedom of religion in this also. So they came over because they weren't free to say what they wanted to say. They weren't free to practice the religion they wanted. And they weren't free to write about in the media what they wanted. So that's why they came over. They stayed, and that's why this is the very first amendment.
Sure, but that was a long time ago. Now we practically have an authoritarian government or a totalitarian government. Like it's creeping up. It's coming up. So it might have been, we came over here to be free back then, but it's looking pretty weird now.
But this is why the right like really points a lot to the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. They really are point to this. And I know it's not political.
Yeah, I'm trying not to make it political.
But I'm just saying there are people in my country, regardless, I won't mention the political side, but there are people who point to this and say, this is how America started. This is how it should be. This is how we need to be. When then the other side that are completely against any of that and should change everything and make it new stuff or whatever.
Well, it doesn't even matter. Like, why are you not obeying a document from the Dark Ages and Victorian times? That was the original document back in the Dark Ages and Victorian times. They knew what was up. They would have beheadings and guillotines. Why don't we have that? Let's go back to that. That was the original document. Who came up with this new Constitution stuff? I want to go back to those times, medieval times. Like, it's a weird argument. Why are you arguing for such an ancient document? So I get why someone would want to change it. It's evolving times. That document wasn't made when we had the internet and everyone was globally connected and hate speech could go around the world a mile a minute and you could have election frauds and whatever. Maybe we need a different document. I don't know. How great is this awesome Constitution? Is it going to last for another 1,000 years? Is it the never-ending eternal document? They nailed it right. Those guys in the 40s or 18 whatevers or whatever, they nailed it. They predicted social media and they had the perfect document for it. I'm so glad. We should keep it. We should totally keep it. Like, maybe we should change it. I don't know. Or maybe they nailed it the first time. I don't know. But you asked if this amendment can save TikTok. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Because how much freedom of speech do we have anyways? And isn't that law from a document that restricts a whole bunch of things of what we can and can't do anyways? And aren't they just passing more laws every day that restrict more things? Abortion was totally allowed for a while. Now it's not, or whatever.
Turn Roe versus Wade, yeah.
I don't know. I don't follow all this stuff, but I understand people and I understand life and I understand these philosophical concepts of laws and restriction and freedom versus freedom. And there's always a tug of war between these things. And there's always a society that wants more freedom or more restriction and order and laws. And once you ban or censor one thing, it sets a precedent for the next. And then that precedent might stay in place for 100 years or 200 years until it gets overturned or appealed by Roe v. Wade or whatever. And now they're back to the original thing. So maybe they do ban TikTok and they ban all the social platforms and they censor everybody. And then society after 100 years gets all antsy about it and they finally rise up and they're like, no, we want our freedom back. And now all those laws get overturned and demolished. It's like, it's nuts. And I honestly don't really get all the arguments about it.